Welcome to DreamInColor72207.com. My name is Virginia Porta and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today I'm going to show you how to make a quick and easy sucker cover to help you with your gifting opportunities between now and Valentine's or St. Patrick's or Easter. This is a simple project that can be replicated based on just about any sort of stamps or project that you have. Remember, you can purchase everything you need for this project with using the links at the end of the video. And if you purchase less than $100, please use the workshop code that's shown above, NCFE4DKZ. Now, to get started, we're going to cut one piece of real red cardstock, 7 inches by 2 3/4. We're going to score it at 3.5 inches and fold it in half. Now, I used the 12 by 12 pieces of cardstock to get my real red, because I had actually run out of real red. As it is, you can get, I think, 4 pieces of this 4 by 2 3/4 out of one 8.5 by 11 sheet, and you can get 5 out of a 12 by 12 sheet, and still have plenty of leftovers for other projects. I'm also going to be using the stitched Be Mine dies, the heartfelt photopolymer stamp set from the January-June mini catalog, meant to be cling stamp set from the annual catalog, as well as the layering circles and dies. So what you've seen there is I've used the stitched Be Mine dies to cut out from the designer series paper. That is the From My Heart Specialty Designer Series paper. It's specialty because it's foiled on one side. And all I've done is, with one pass of my die cutting machine, I've made the inside of the die for the heart, and then the trim. I've flipped over the paper and I've applied the liquid glue to the outside or the frame of the die, which is stitched. And then I have used that to adhere it to the front of the sucker cover. You don't want to center it, and if you do center it, you can center it horizontally, and then make it a little bit above center as you look at the cover. You're going to need some space at the bottom to put your ribbons. Now you're going to pick up some dimensionals and use those to apply the inside of the heart, and all you do is line up the points at the very bottom and your heart is lined up. The third piece you're going to add is a 1-inch circle, and I cut those circles using the layering circles dies from the annual catalog. Again, I'm going to put all the product numbers at the bottom or at the end of the video in the comment section. The Meant to Be stamp set is in the annual catalog, and I'm going to use the lined hearts. And I'm using Flirty Flamingo, and I'm going to stamp off. If I used Flirty Flamingo at full speed, at full strength, it would be too bright for what we're doing. So I'm going to stamp it off onto the scratch paper, onto my work paper, and then stamp it onto the single dot there. And you'll be able to see how faint a color that is. The next thing I'm going to do is pick up the sentiment from the heartfelt photopolymer stamp set from the mini catalog. And the sentiment says, just a minute, we'll see it. I think it's, I'm so lucky to have a friend like you. And we're going to stamp that at full strength in the real red on top of the heart. Yes, so lucky to have a friend like you. So, since this is a photopolymer and there's no foam backing on the stamp, I picked up the stamp mat so I could get a good impression. So all you do is center that on the heart, stamp, peel it off, and there you have the centerpiece. We're going to close up our inks so we don't drop our fingers in them. I have a tendency that when I use real red, it looks like a crime scene, so I have to be very careful about that. So we're going to grab another dimensional and use that to pop up the center dot. I love dimensionals. They're very affordable and they're great to have on hand anytime you want to add a little bit of interest or just even some depth to your project. Isn't that cute? So then the next thing we're going to do is take glue dots. Now you can use regular snail adhesive, you can use tear and tape. I'm using glue dots because I seem to have a plethora of glue dots. I don't know if they're left over from paper pumpkin projects or from other kits that I've had, but I used this opportunity to get rid of a ton of glue dots. Now I'm going to place 2 glue dots on each bottom corner of the sucker cover. And I say 2 just because sometimes they're small, and again, I was wanting to get rid of them. I'm going to attach the sucker to the inside of the sucker cover, likewise with glue dots. I put 3 little glue dots on that, and I just stuck it in there just to keep it secure. Remember, you're not going to be mailing these suckers cross country, and you don't have to worry about the sucker falling out. And that's just to keep it stable while I close up the sucker cover. Again, use your pickup tool to peel off the backing of the glue dots, and then you'll pick this up, match the corners, and press down, like the old press and seal. Here you go. And this is at which point I realized I normally put the suckers on the back of the sucker cover, but I evidently decided this time I wanted it to go on the front. Oh well, you know what, mistakes happen and we work around them. So here I am lining up the corners, pressing the glue dots down. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is take a pair of snips and make just a tiny little 1/8 of an inch cut on the side, just a tiny, tiny V, which allows the ribbon, when I wrap it around it, to grab hold of that. Otherwise, the ribbon would slide up and down, or you'd end up warping your card. So at this point, we're going to take a 16-inch piece of the Whisper White polka dot tulle ribbon. I love this ribbon. Here it is, the Whisper White, and here's the information that it's the polka dot tulle. Now, this ribbon is awesome because, like many of the Stampin' Up! Products, you can choose to color that with either dipping it in the re-inker solution, or you can use the alcohol inks to paint what you need. So with your 16-inch piece of ribbon, you're going to wrap it around the bottom of the sucker cover, tie it in half with a bow. Now, sometimes you'll have to trim your tags, sometimes you don't. Now we're going to add red rhinestones from the annual catalog using your pickup tool, just to add a little bling to the project. I mean, what project doesn't need a little bit of sparkle and shine? You'll notice that I put 3 on here. How many of you like to use a lot of bling on your cards? Well, I find the older I get, the more bling I like to add, but I also know that a little bit too much is too much. So stick with groups of 3 or 5, and in this case, because it's so small, stick with 3. Now, this is 2 of the covers, and I did an assembly line and made 32 of these to have for my office and for some other friends. So you can see my stacks of the cards, the insides of the hearts, and as I finished up before we got to the jewels. And here's the DSP, and a picture of the finished. Thanks for joining me. Details follow.